Hello, I'm Tamara Banks, and welcome to Denver Decides. This community partnership is dedicated to accessible and transparent elections. The partnership includes the League of Women Voters of Denver, Interneighborhood Cooperation, and Historic Denver. Denver Decides is presented by Denver 8 TV. Our mission today is to present a candidate forum in anticipation of the municipal election coming up on Tuesday, May 7th. Among other offices, this election includes candidates vying to represent voters of Denver City Council from District 2. District 2 is located in far southwest Denver. Our format includes timed opening and closing statements. We will also have rounds of questions that have been submitted by the organizers of the forum. The race for City Council District 2 only has one candidate this time around, so allow me to introduce to you the unopposed candidate for the ballot is Kevin Flynn. Kevin, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. So now we'll begin with asking you to give your opening statement. You've got 1 minute, and you can begin when you're ready.
All right, thank you. Again, my name is Kevin Flynn. I am the current council member for Council District 2, far southwest Denver. I want to thank the organizers for having these forums available to us and readily accessible to all the citizens of Denver. 4 years ago in southwest Denver, I pledged to the voters then that I would concentrate on 3 areas. One was increasing public safety, because we had the longest response times to 911 emergency calls of any quadrant of the city. I promised that I would work on better economic development for our district, where things seem to have passed us by in the growth that's occurring around Denver. And finally, increased quality of life, people being more comfortable in their neighborhoods. I had a woman who said the police had told her when her car was broken into, what else could she do to keep that from happening? I mean, she was told, move to a better zip code. And I said, you know, in southwest Denver, we don't move to better zip codes, we make our zip codes better. We have reduced response times to 911 calls by 25%, which is exactly what I had pledged. And we're working hard in all those other areas. Thank you very much, and I ask for your vote on May 7.
All right. Thank you, Kevin. Now I'll be asking you some questions,
Sure.
A series of questions submitted by the organizers, the partners of this forum. So the first question is, improving transit and all types of mobility in Denver do not have a dedicated local source of funding. Would you support creating a dedicated source of annual funding for citywide investments in transit, mobility, and Vision Zero safety improvements? If yes, how would you propose to fund this?
I would separate out some of those categories, to tell you the truth, because when we talk about transit, transit is very rich in central Denver, but in far southwest Denver, my voters border on 7 different jurisdictions, from Lakewood and Littleton and Beaumar and unincorporated Arapahoe and Jefferson. And so we stick out into a transit desert, if you will. On the west side of the Platte River, it's very difficult to go east-west from southwest Denver. We have very good RTD service on Federal Boulevard and on Sheridan, but to get west, especially to the Englewood Light Rail Station or to the Evans Station, very difficult. I would not advocate the city going alone on transit, because I believe after the failure of the transportation initiatives or referrals on the ballot last fall statewide, we need to have a regional approach. I am on the board of the Denver Regional Council of Governments. We need to cooperate on transit issues, but on Vision Zero and neighborhood mobility improvements, I definitely believe there's a place for that, and I think we ought to look at our general fund revenues, which are very substantial right now, for dedicating a portion of that, as we do, say, for affordable housing.
All right, next question. Is District 2 willing to host or develop a unique commercial district which could allow a big box store in the district to keep sales revenues within the city limits?
Wow. You know, I don't know if this is going to come as news to people, but it's not news to the folks in southwest Denver, but big box retail is dead. My wife has an Amazon box on our front porch almost every day. I don't think the answer is in big box, frankly. We lost a huge target, a 110,000 square foot target at Sheridan and Evans, what I call the South Sheridan commercial area. I organized a steering committee composed of residents in Harvey Park, Bear Valley, Green Meadows. We've been working for 2 years. We got the Urban Land Institute a year ago to do a technical advisory panel on that 64-acre parcel to try to find what can happen to this. I can tell you, I guarantee you, it's not going to be another big box store. We could cut up that building, we could demolish it, we could put housing, mixed use, but experiential retail is where we need to be going, not big box. We need to invest in the kind of retail experience that that people have to go to. I have to go out for a cup of coffee. I have to go out for entertainment these days. I don't have to go out to buy my suits or my furniture or anything else. That's where we need to concentrate.
All right. Our forum organizers have another question for you, and that is, do you think that developers are including the existing character of the neighborhood in the new buildings, especially residences in your district of Denver? And do you like what you're seeing?
I'll be really frank, I don't like what I'm seeing. And I am very thankful that in Southwest Denver, to this extent, we have remained an affordable part of town because we have not seen the scraping and the rebuilding and the densification that's occurred in other parts of Denver. My constituents see what's happened in Highland and Sloan's Lake and areas of Wash Park, and they're appalled. And so as we're moving forward with the new Denverite, Blueprint Denver, and the comp plan, I'm taking a very critical look at how much, how much densification that will allow in our neighborhoods. I'm very wary of going into established neighborhoods and scraping off some of our homes and building multifamily. I think people are basically appalled at the design and the density. We need to put density where we've planned it, near the core, near transit stations, but not in far southwest Denver or other reaches of the city that do not have access to mobility alternatives other than driving alone in their car.
All right, thank you. And before our next question, I want to remind our viewers that Kevin Flynn, the candidate for District 2, is running unopposed. That's why we just have one candidate here with us this time around. So our next question, Denver voters last year approved additional tax funds to expand and improve parks and open space. What specific ideas for locations do you have for additional parks and open space in your district?
You know, that's a difficult question in Southwest Denver, as I imagine it might be in Southeast and some other newer parts of the city, because we have built them up post-war 50s and 60s around the automobile, and we pretty much plastered the landscape with housing, single-family housing mostly, but about 40% of the housing in my district is multifamily, and we didn't provide for parks. In my district and Councilman Lopez district, Council District 3, just north of me, Southwest Denver, we are the second most underparked part of the city in terms of how many acres of parkland we have per 1,000 residents. And to address that, we have a good opportunity right now because the Loretto Heights campus at Federal and Dartmouth, with a beautiful historic Frank Edbrook building, is now owned by a developer who has engaged, at our request, in the very first neighborhood plan ever to occur in Council District 2, the very first one. And here is a great opportunity on those 72 acres to provide some more parkland.
Well, that's a great segue into the next question. The historic Loretto Heights campus is highly significant in your district and citywide. What do you see as the best case study or model for its redevelopment?
I'm going to be, it's not evasive, but I'm going to be very sparse in what I say about this, because we have succeeded in getting the very first neighborhood plan. And I told my residents, I told my constituents and stakeholders that I am not going to dictate. I'm not going to tell you what this ought to look like. You need to tell me what it wants to look like, and then my job is to get that for you. The owner has agreed to participate in this process. We had our 6th steering committee meeting just the other day, all about mobility and internal circulation. It's been a very good process. So far, what I've heard from the people of Southwest Denver is they want that campus to be accessible in a way it never was before, because it was a private college for 130 years. Here's a great opportunity to have new places for the experiential retail that I spoke about, some new restaurants. People are tired, you're right, tired of taking their kids and their families over to Belmar or down to River Point and Sheridan and leaving the city with their sales tax dollars. They want to stay close to home. This is a good opportunity to provide that.
All right. Is District 2 a safe place to live and work? And are the streets as safe as they could or should be?
On a relative scale, yes, it is. But it is part of Denver Police District 4, which is the busiest in calls for service of the police districts and has a disproportionate amount of violent crime. The farther south you go, the less it is. But again, we had that difficulty with police response times. We have been able, through my efforts with the budget and working with the mayor's office and former Police Chief White, we have guaranteed in the budget that we will maintain academy classes, which had not been held for 5 years after the recession. We are going to continue to recruit 100 to 125 new police officers to replace all the folks who are transitioning out in order to maintain those faster response times. I believe Chief Payson, who is a resident of my council district, by the way, has a very good grip on the problem and he's already made some moves, going to four-day shifts of 10, which is a lot easier to manage when you're trying to maintain around-the-clock coverage. He's done a lot of good work, and I believe that that will continue.
Okay. And last question for you, kind of fun here. So I've addressed the audience before and let them know that you're running unopposed. To what do you attribute your being unopposed?
Wow. You know, I would like to say it's because I've done such a great job, and that would be the easy thing to say. But as I was explaining just before we started taping, I represent what may be, in fact, the most politically diverse district in the city in terms of the amount of Republican and Democratic registration and unaffiliateds in Southwest Denver. And I have purposely and intentionally reached out to everyone. I have organized 3 new registered neighborhood organizations. I have gone to all of the meetings that all the homeowner associations hold. I'm going to one again tomorrow night. I've gone to House District 1 Republicans and House District 1 Democrats, and I've gotten everyone involved. I said, I don't care what your affiliation is. I care that your voices aren't being heard. Councilman Lopez, my good friend from just north of me, often says that the city has treated the South Platte River as though it were the Rio Grande. And it's time that that stops. We need more voices from west of the river involved in our business. And I've done that. And I believe that's the reason that people are pretty happy.
All right. So that brings us to the end of our questions and answers, and now it's time for the closing statement. So you've got 1 minute for your closing statement.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Again, my name is Kevin Flynn. When I ran for this office 4 years ago, I told people that I wanted to use the 35 years of training and experience that I had as a journalist, mostly at the Rocky Mountain News, as a City Hall reporter, and to bring a natural skepticism and an inquisitive attitude and a questioning attitude to the council. I believe I have done that, and I believe I was able to hit the ground running in a way that most new council members aren't always able. So I have done some things with the skills that I've acquired. For instance, I was able to put the skids recently on the red light camera expansion because I convinced, finally, the traffic engineering and Denver Police that if you set yellow times appropriately, you reduce red light running naturally. And before you put in a camera and maintain unsafe signal timing, let's take a look at that. And those kinds of things, I think, really resonated with people. And for that reason, I ask for your continued support for another 4 years to continue the Loretto Heights planning process, to see that through to fruition, to continue the South Sheridan Steering Committee and its work following on the Urban Land Institute. We just signed about a month ago a contract through the city's Office of Economic Development to bring in a marketing consultant who will advise us on what kinds of retailers, what kinds of businesses want to populate that really underutilized commercial area where we used to have the Target. We now have a 99-cent store. In Southwest Denver, we didn't even rate a dollar store. One stinking penny, we could have had a dollar store. We can do better, and we will. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Kevin Flynn, for being here.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Our thanks also to Denver Decides partners, including Interneighborhood Cooperation, the League of Women Voters of Denver, and Historic Denver. Denver Decides is presented by Denver 8 TV. Make sure you get out there to register and vote. Again, Election Day is Tuesday, May 7th. For complete election information online, go to denverdecides.com. I'm Tamara Banks. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.